Hello and welcome to AAU TV. This is AAU Talks and I'm your host, Schenineda Kwaku Ankomah. Today on AAU Talks, I'll be talking to Mr. Yusif Samudeen on online education amidst coronavirus pandemic that we have right now. And on AAU Talks, we'll be looking into what online education is in the midst of this pandemic that we have. Mr. Samudeen, who is my guest for today, is the country rep, the Ghana country rep for International Open University. He's also the lead for 1 million scholarship project in Africa. Mr. Samudeen holds a degree in education and also an MBA in marketing and entrepreneurship. We will go for a quick break. When we come, I will introduce my guest and we zoom into our discussion. Stay with us.
The whole world is in lockdown. COVID-19 has shaken the world and left us in a state of uncertainty, longing for answers to many questions. We now have more time on our hands every day. We're looking for ease and a stress reliever, and many have literally nothing to do, searching for things to fill their time. The question remains, how can we best utilize the extra time we have during this period? The International Open University has a solution. We've served our community for over a decade in higher education. Join any program of your choice from various departments. Take advantage of our 10% discount early bird specials and start studying today. Log in to www.iou.edu.gm.
Welcome back. This is AAU Talks, and today we are talking to Mr. Yusif Samudeen on online education amidst coronavirus. Welcome to AAU Talks, Mr. Samudeen.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
I hope you are following the safety protocols as
of course,
said by the government.
Yeah, I think because of the distance, the social distancing, we are not in our mask, but we are following it to the
Sure,
line.
all the
That
protocols,
the
everything is observed in-house.
Sure.
Okay, so Mr. Samudeen, we are looking at the topic of coronavirus, online education amidst coronavirus. There has been a lot of discussion and then hula-baloo about this whole the issue of online education in the midst of coronavirus. But let's look at it. You've been with International Open University for a long time, where most of your modules are already online in nature. So can you give us a brief background on online education, how far we've come, and then your personal view about online education in Africa, even before the pandemic, in the pandemic, and after?
Thank you very much, Naida. I think the issue of online education is something that has come to stay. So for us, we are part of the global village. Then online education is something that is part and parcel of us. Even before online education, when you look at the gaps in education, if you look at the development, the Millennium Development Goals and other activities that are being done, particularly when you come to the focus on education, more and more young girls and boys are getting into school.
Okay.
So you see that the output, the demand for education at the primary and secondary level is growing.
Okay.
I think there was a study in 2010. There was a projection that by 2020, 100 million Africans will be needing education at different level. There are other studies that say that only 6% of Africans have access to higher education.
Okay.
Now, when you look at that number of people who need, out of the youth population, about 36% who are the youth in Africa, the demand for online education is there. But there is a challenge, that is the constraint on governments and Africans to develop the schools and what it takes. There's a study of the UNESCO that say that we need about 3.8 million teachers. We need to build schools, more schools, if we want to be able to meet the demand for education. So you see that technically, yes, the demand is there, but we cannot fill the gap because of the constraints on government and priorities on government. So there's a need for Africa. I think for us, I can say that online education is actually for Africa.
Okay.
The alternative means is not all the time that the traditional means can survive our need. We can't, because we cannot build more schools in the short time. We cannot hire more teachers in the short time. We cannot develop more labs in the short term. So if we are not able to do that, that gap, how can we fill it? So it is a time for us to think to ponder about alternative means to solve the problem of education in Africa. So we are aware of the traditional system, but what is it that we are not aware of? And one of them is the online education. So online education is actually something that is not seen as foreign to Africa. We rather need it.
Okay.
Because if you build a school, the more you can take, you cannot take up to 100,000 students in one campus. No. But when you develop an online system, you can take more than 20 million people studying at the same time without it affecting anything, without even having constraint on our resources. Because if you compare the costs involved in developing online education system as compared to traditional education system, it is mind-boggling. And I don't think we have the resources, at least in the short-term round. So when it comes to education, trying to compare traditional education and online education, I think we as Africa, we need more of online education. But of course, the systems and procedures that will make it, give it the fear that we are afraid to adopt it, must be looked into with all matter of seriousness and all matter of urgency by policymakers, but almost everybody.
Okay.
And the orientation that we have about people pursuing education online and traditional system need to be reviewed.
Okay. So I think you've made a very interesting point here, because comparing the cost of online education to the traditional face-to-face education, you can see that there is a lot of benefit in online education.
Yeah.
It will serve the purposes that we want.
Yeah.
But then I think Africa was not prepared, and we even thought online education was something that should be considered even for the future. But the pandemic, that is the COVID-19, has already exposed us. We are in the pandemic, and more than ever, people are pushing for online education now, whether we like it or not. We are in this era where we are supposed to zoom into online education. But then there is issue of difficulty to innovate. What are some of the challenges that you see that makes it very difficult, even though now it's imperative that we need to move to online education? What is really making it difficult for universities and Africa as a whole to adapt to this system?
Yeah, adapting it at this time around, the reasons why we are not able to adapt it are the reasons that came even before the pandemic.
Okay.
Why were we not ready to innovate? There were so many issues, okay? One of the reasons, particularly in this time, that we are not able to transit quickly, respond to the situation in the short-term realm, there are so many reasons, and some of them are actually we were not prepared.
Okay.
We were not ready for it. We were thinking that we can do it, but let us deal with the traditional university when we are done with it.
Okay.
That is one of the reasons. Two, the infrastructure to put in place. Online education cannot work fully without access to internet and access to computer.
Okay.
So the infrastructure that need to be put in place, we're not ready for it.
Okay.
For example, we need computers, we need internet.
Okay.
See, if we have been able to develop our own roads, build the bank, we build the financial sector because we need it. Now, if we had decided to go into online education, I'm sure we would have planned, formed a better partnership with the people that we have been able to partner with to develop our financial sector, to develop all sectors of the economy. If we had decided to do that, we would have partnered with them to build an infrastructure. We have a lot of telcos in the country who provide internet services. There are so many IT companies providing various services of IT companies, outsourcing computer systems. So if we had decided to put in an online education into our plan, we would have decided how to get those things, the infrastructure in place. Now, when you leave that one to the online learning platform themselves, most of the institutions were not having them. You see, it's not just about taking Moodle, but it's about taking the Moodle and customizing the Moodle to meet your need and your system.
Okay.
Okay, so we didn't have the online platform. We're not prepared for it.
Okay.
Okay, so, and then a large percentage of the Africans are disconnected.
Okay.
They are living in remote areas. There's no computer or internet in my village. So if you are in the capital and you try to introduce online education, And me living in the far end of the village, how can I get hooked to it? So there are very practical challenges.
Okay.
The infrastructure in place, lack of access to internet and computer itself, the institutions themselves were not having. You see, even in the period of the pandemic, some institutions were able to respond quickly.
Okay.
But when you look at the response rate and the challenges that were coming, it means that if we had actually put in some measures, we wouldn't have been caught up in that. Of course,
Okay.
some are doing better,
Yeah.
but you see that there are some lapses, there are some challenges in terms of, and then content development.
Yeah.
You see, some of the lectures need to be recorded. Most of our material need to be digitalized. Do we have them? Now look at how much it costs to buy a camera to record. If you had not put it in your budget or in your plan to have it in, let's say, 2 years, and then the pandemic just came, where are you going to get the resources from? Those who will even ship the equipment to you, where are they going to ship from if the borders have been closed? So we were not able to respond quickly because of some of these infrastructure, preparedness, lack of access, content development. So even those that were able to go in, see, if you go and look at the video lectures, not all of them have video lectures. Some are using Moodles anyway, but you see that they are attaching, some lectures are going on Telegram, some lectures are going on Skype, so many things.
That shows the lack of preparedness.
Exactly.
On our side. Yeah.
So if we had actually taken it as a plan, we would have customized whatever platform you take to meet your needs. It would have helped you to develop the content that are required. If it is video, so every professor or every person that is required in a period would have been given materials to record, or we would have even put in the structures. When the lecturers are delivering the lecture, we start recording, digitalizing it in that order. So those are the challenges why we couldn't respond so quickly to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we can't do it.
Okay.
So if we have been able to bring progress in our banking system, our financial system, and other systems, I'm very sure Africa is capable of doing that.
Okay.
But because we have not factored, or maybe because we are in the process, I don't say we are, because we are in the process, or because we're not looking at it in the short term, that is what has brought us this caught up in that trend of not being able to respond to it immediately.
Okay, Mr. Samudeen, you've been with international open universities for a long time, and I think basically what you do at your university is the use of these online platforms.
Yeah.
So how, right now we are in the pandemic, like I mentioned, whether we like it or not, we really need to innovate.
Yeah.
So right now, with your experience from international open universities and with online learning, how do universities caught in this situation innovate for the future? Yeah,
for international open university, we are 100% online. And because we know that is what we are going to do, we put in the systems and in place. We are not the best.
Sure.
At least I can't say we are everything, but what it needs to, we have tried as much as possible to come in. See, our system can take up to 2 million students at a time without any problem. See, the developers of Moodle themselves, when they see what we have, how we have advanced the Moodle, they are shocked.
Okay.
Yeah. So even with the pandemic, nothing affected our education.
Okay.
Everything was going on
so
round.
What should universities caught in this situation take from the story of international open university?
It has to be part of it. Like, it's part of your strategic objectives.
Okay.
That we want to develop the online platform.
Okay.
What do we do? Brainstorming has to come in. And I think we need to learn from one another. International Open University, we are open.
Okay.
Our programs are open. We are ready to partner with anybody that we can share knowledge, what we have. Because if you look at our 1 million scholarship project, the purpose is to give 1 million scholarship to African. Okay? Now, because that is our goal that we want to achieve as part of the SDG effort to end poverty, we decided that if we want to give scholarship to people and they don't have access to internet, how can you do that?
Okay.
So we started building learning centers across Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So if it's going to be part of the strategy of local university or traditional university to go online, then brainstorming session has to come in. We have to make allocation of budget. We have to look at what we have to do and all these things. And from policy perspective, the government need to also support, and African government need to support. You see, we need to make the right policies to develop the infrastructure. We have to commit ourselves that this is what we want to put in to develop the infrastructure. We need to start accepting people with online certificate. There's no stigmatization that I got my program from online. And no, that kind of have to be breaking, because if you look at what online open universities are doing, it's so great. The content development, then there is a lot. So we have to give it that acceptance so that it will be easy for others to follow. So more or less promotion and awareness creation about the need of making online education part and parcel of the programs of development in Africa.
Okay, so we will rest on the program development and go for a quick break. When we come, we'll go into the issue of content development and how we'll be able to solve some of the challenges when it comes to content development. So if you are watching us, this is AAU Talks. Today I'm with Mr. Samudeen Yusif. We are talking about online education amidst coronavirus. You can join us in the discussion on Facebook, also on YouTube, Association of African Universities. We are also streaming on our online platforms, and then on StarTimes, you can catch us on StarTimes app and then follow the discussions. If you have any further questions, you can join us so that in the next series, we'll be able to ask Mr. Samudeen. Stay with us.
The whole world is in lockdown. COVID-19 has shaken the world and left us in a state of uncertainty, longing for answers to many questions. We now have more time on our hands every day. We're looking for ease and a stress reliever, and many have literally nothing to do, searching for things to fill their time. The question remains, how can we best utilize the extra time we have during this period? The International Open University has a solution. We've served our community for over a decade in higher education. Join any program of your choice from various departments. Take advantage of our 10% discount early bird specials and start studying today. Log in to www.iou.edu.gm.
AAU Talks. Mr. Samudeen, before we left off for the break, we were talking about content development. I think one of the major challenges for our traditional universities, also let me say those ones who were stuck onto the face-to-face teaching and learning, one of the major challenges transitioning to online education has to do with content development. Also, maybe some would say the curriculum that fits the purposes of online education. I know it's not the same for, there are certain features that needs to be incorporated. So in terms of content development, in terms of the structure of the curriculum, what are some of the adjustments that needs to be made?
Yeah, actually, it's not that something special needs to be done.
Yeah.
Okay. You see, what we are doing in our own school is what we need to digitalize is to serve the purpose of the people outside the confined area. So if it's your campus, people outside your campus, how are they going to benefit? So what we have, you see, when you look at, if you are looking at the literature, you see there are a lot of critics on open and distance education, the content development. Yeah. But when you come to traditional universities, who are you to criticize some universities' content? You get it? You can do that. But because we are online, because we are trying, all the ODS are trying to to prove the point that we are there. If you look at what they are doing, they've tried as much as possible to capture most of their materials on tape, on video, on CDs. So even after years, people can revisit it. Even if you deliver your own lecture and it's recorded, and you go home and you visit it and you see that there was something wrong, you can come back and correct. But on the other side, if the lecture is not recorded, if you are not, how do you assess yourself. If it is not through student review, how will you know? You understand? So if you come to content development, it's like we have the content in the traditional universities. Perfect. We have everything that is needed. Because if you look at the whole concept of online education, it's coming from the traditional school.
Okay.
So there isn't much difference. But the only difference is the copying of, digitalizing the material.
Okay.
So the traditional universities need to invest to record all that they have, because everything is already there.
Okay.
But just that we need to convert them from paper, black and white, into audiovisuals.
Okay.
And I know some universities have been doing it. I think my last university, before I was leaving, I witnessed that that has been started, where recording has started.
Yeah.
I think I still have one of the research methods that was recorded.
Okay.
So that transition is also going there, and most of the universities have also now have the online element. So we just have to deepen it more, just do more of what we already have.
Okay.
So if you want to do it, now you also have to take some lessons from what the ODLs are doing. So what is that we can improve on to make it more. So in terms of content, most of the materials that are not digitalized have to be digitalized so that we can come. It will be easy for them to transit in case of such a pandemic or eventualities that happen, just quickly to convert whatever you have back there. Because there are some universities, they have everything, but because they were not recorded, in the short term, you can't just do it so quickly. So it will be part and parcel of our day-to-day activity to try and convert our materials into the digital platform. I know most universities' libraries are now converting all their books from the books into the digital libraries. So this needs to be done for every other lectures that are being run in schools. They should be recorded, so that in case of this thing, it will be easy for us
so talking about digitization, is it anything that can be digitized? Because we are looking at some features that it's not easily recorded and then transmitted to the learners. So let's take, for instance, faith-based universities. Let's say a typical Islamic university, a typical Catholic university, where they also imbibe in the students certain values that are not probably just taught like that, but then probably by their physical presence, they instill in them all those things, like mode of dressing, the culture, and all those things. How do you integrate all those aspects into online education?
I don't think everything is missing when you come to online education. You see, when you look at every faith-based institution, whether it is the Catholic, the Presbyterian, the Methodist, or the Islamic faith or something, they set up their school with a purpose. One of the purpose is to train leaders, not just leaders, morally sound leaders. But what comes to define a morally sound leaders will take some portion from the purpose for which the university was set up. So that culture of, although we are going online, will not be missing. For example, if there's this concept that we are talking about, Islamization of curriculums, right? Like Christianization of curriculum. Yeah. So this is your curriculum. This is what you want to teach. How are you going to convert it so that even though somebody's online, he doesn't miss the point? See, when you come to teaching and learning, you see, if you want to look at it, let's look at the educational environment. The moment you step up a feet in a university, from the gate, the flower, the symbols, everything that is in the school tell a story about that university. So when you come to the online digital platform, it's still there, because the lecturers who are teaching, they are living testimony of what they are teaching. So how they present themselves, how they talk, how students interact, particularly when you go for live lessons where students are supposed to come in directly and exchange talk. See, that element of meeting face-to-face has been incorporated in the online system, like the live session and the forum discussion. So as students come, how they talk to each other, like everything about the university, the website of the university, the material the university show. So that culture is indirectly absorb into everything that they are doing. So that element or that fear that if we go online, what we actually stand for will get missing is not totally correct, so because it's still there imbibed.
I think taking you back, you mentioned what Open University is doing in terms of trying to build on the systems, to customize the systems to fit what you're doing. I think then universities can do more about how to incorporate the environmental features into these platforms. I think it's something that can be done.
For sure.
And I know that we'll continue to build on that. But let's finish off with this. I think, right now we have online education. We have the face-to-face education. Now, because of COVID, it's like right now the online education is the preferred. Now, people are thinking about when there is a vaccine, which then becomes the aftermath of COVID. Universities, are they supposed to run these two forms of teaching concurrently, or let's say that let's put the online process aside, then let's do our face-to-face, so that when there is maybe another pandemic, we can switch? Because people are talking about the two of them coexisting. How do we operate the existence of these two things? Because I know obviously we don't have to choose one over the other and all that.
It will be a great mistake if we think that because the pandemic is over, we are going to put one aside and then take no. The two systems have to be run concurrently from costing, accounting and costing perspective. Now, when you close from school, when you close the school after 4 p.m., that number of hours that are left, what are you going to do with it? And from the marketing perspective, we need to develop cost centers or business units that will bring revenue to the university. So there are some portion of the students, the target students, who cannot leave their job and come to study on campus. Maybe he's so big or he's so busy with this, doesn't mean he should stop and come and be in campus for another 4 years. By the time he's gone, somebody has taken his job over. So it's an opportunity for university to expand the business units that will bring more revenue to the universities themselves. So there are master's programs that you are running for some people. So even if you cannot come directly on campus to study, they should still be able to get that revenue from you. So instead of just putting one side, another one, we need to develop it. And besides, you see, the universities are losing a lot of revenue because you are operated within, you are confined within the jurisdiction. People outside the jurisdiction cannot come in. Because if I live in, let's say, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, or Qatar, or somewhere, or the US, and I want to come to Ghana to study, look at the cost involved. Immigration issue, accommodation issue, and I'm coming to pay as a foreign student, look at the cost. But if we are online, we digitalize, I can still be in my country and be taking course from a local university in Ghana or in Nigeria or in anywhere. And still, though I am not physically in that country, but I'm still making that revenue to support my local operations. So we have to run them concurrently for the better. Because we shouldn't make another mistake to sit down again for another pandemic to come and cut that hands down. No. So it is not a good idea. It will be a great mistake if we think that otherwise. In fact, even with the online, we have to also think about what else. Because now I know most universities are doing weekend classes, they are doing evening classes. So the online is also another business unit that you need to open. I think most of the foreign universities closed down, actually, but they were still operating online in European and other countries. When the announcements were being made, it was only in Africa that you realized that still now some schools are still open. We are even talking about the tertiary. When you go into the primary, it's totally out. Even if you look at our country, in Ghana, for example, it's only the final year students who are going to school. What about those who are home? Of course, a lot of effort has been done using television, using radio, but how many people still have the sets? So instead of closing one, no, we need to run it concurrently and even think further, what other avenues can we use to still reach the gap of African youth who cannot still access education.
So
particularly the tertiary
that
education.
really makes it, brings even an opportunity for universities to even expand their business operations and probably getting more revenue for the university. That is a good angle there. I think with the other levels of education. Today, our emphasis has probably been on higher education, but then the other levels of education are equally important. Yeah. So I think there will be a special session on the other levels of education and how we can also incorporate online teaching and learning at those levels. And I think it will be much difficult over there than we are talking about at the tertiary level. But I think that we'll save that for another discussion. Thank you, Mr. Samudeen, for joining us on AAU Talks and then on the insight that you've given to us. Thank you very much. Viewers, if you are watching us from home, this is AAU Talks. We were talking about online education amidst coronavirus, and today's discussion has been very interesting. You can visit the videos on Facebook, on YouTube, and on all our digital platforms to have access to the content, and you will be educated and you will know how to run your university in this era of COVID. Thank you very much for watching. I was your host, Schenineda Kwaku Ankomah.